Okay, Internet. Welcome to Intro to Meteor. I'm going to share my screen. No, you can comment all over the place.
And stop the recursions.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I need to close this. This is Meteor.com. This is where you go. It's your home base for finding everything related to Meteor. Meteor differs from a lot of the other web frameworks in that it is client and the server at the same time. So whereas Angular is all about the client and Rails is all about the server, Meteor tries to solve all your problems by being a framework on the client and the server. And they have some of their big features here. And to me, this one's the big one, live updates. So whenever things change on the database, every single client gets the updates in their browser in real time without having to refresh. And also, compared to doing the real-time stuff in any other thing that I've seen, it's radically less code. It's kind of nice to have one language everywhere, even if it is JavaScript. It goes all the way to the data store. So your only option for official support right now is MongoDB. So that basically stores stuff in JSON. So it's kind of nice to have JavaScript from the front to the back. They also are pretty proud of this one. Whenever you push new code, the page will automatically refresh and the clients will get the latest version of the code, supposedly with minimal disruption if you're using the session properly. They have an integration with PhoneGap to where you can make a Android, iOS app pretty easily. I couldn't get that working inside my virtual machine though. And this, because they do so much every time you make a change in the client, it's going to the server and updating all the others. They had this problem where the change would appear, your app would appear laggy if you waited for it to go all the way to the server to say, yeah, this is how it is, and then update your client again. So they actually guess. They run the same code on the client, and then if the server says that the client did wrong, later it patches up the data. So it feels really responsive. So now we are going to go into Linux because it doesn't have official support on Windows yet. And this is how you, can everybody see this? Okay, decent, loud, bigger. To install, you just do install.meteor.com. So that's the install command. I'm not going to run that because I already have it. So I have an empty directory here, and to get started, I just say Meteor create simple to-dos. We're going to make a to-do app because that's the measure of any web framework. So it has created a folder called simple to-dos.
Are you going to use the GTD method or what?
I don't know what you're talking about. Inside of here, it has created 3 files for us, and it also has a hidden file or folder where they stick their stuff, but we don't have to worry about that. So let's open up that folder. Boop. HTML file, CSS file, and JavaScript file. We're going to put some stuff in there, but we're going to start from a clean slate and copy in some different stuff. So let me grab their CSS, because this is not about CSS. Cheat code. There's just some CSS. And let me go ahead and copy in the starter HTML. And then we'll go over that. So to start off, in Meteor, they have their templating language. It's based off handlebars, but they call it space bars. They have the space theme going on. So we just have a title of to-do list, a header of to-do list, and a list that iterates through a set of tasks, which we don't know where that comes from yet, but we'll get to that. And then it prints out, it displays the task using this template down here called task. And inside of it, we just create a list item with the text of the task, and we'll show where that comes from too. So now, in the JavaScript file, we start off with if meteor.isClient. And we say template called body. And I'll add some helpers onto it. And the body comes from this. So that's puts us in this scope. Inside of here, we want to expose something called tasks. And that will just be an array for right now. Has 3 objects. Task 1, task 2, task 3. And then we should be able to go and run our application by saying Meteor. And it bundles all the HTML, CSS, JavaScript together, minifies, and does all that for you. And starts a development server on localhost 3000. And here's our to-do list. Task 1, task 2, task 3.
So when you say template.body, is it referring to just any top level element there, or?
I think anything, so like you could have multiple bodies in your project. I think it scopes it to any body. So this is like almost global scope, I guess.
Okay, so body is the global scope. They just call it body because of HTML.
Yeah.
Body tag.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe. So now let's make it a little more interesting. Instead of returning a static array of tasks, we will. So now I'm not inside of a Meteor.isClient. So in Meteor, your code could be running anywhere. So if it's only for the client, we put it in these isClient blocks, or there's a special folder called client. Anything you put in there only goes to the client. There's another one for server. But for simplicity, we're just going to stick everything in one file. A new mongo.collection. And this is, in Mongo, it's going to be called tasks with a lowercase t. And so now this is a collection. If it doesn't exist in Mongo, it's going to create it for us. And this is basically the most powerful thing about Meteor to me is we can access this task collection from the client, from the server. It exposes basically the entire Mongo interface, even on the client. Now, if you're already worrying about security, they have a solution for that, but we probably won't get into that during this. So now instead of the static array, we can return tasks.find, which is just a Mongo method, and save. And now over here, our page should refresh for us.
You have to refresh it manually.
Why do I have to refresh?
Just refresh.
Your application has, oh, you got a
Unexpected token. Yeah. Return task.find. I needed the semicolon. I need to return. Expected token return.
You don't, I don't think you need to return, you just don't need the semicolon.
Oh, function. Does it look good? Started. Now this should reload, but since I crashed it so many times, maybe it won't.
Refresh it.
I'll just click. Okay, so now we have nothing because we don't have any task in our actual Mongo database. So let's open a new tab. Zoom in. Meteor Mongo. It's just a shortcut way to launch the Mongo shell. db.tasks.find. I guess I'm just proving that there's still nothing in there. db.tasks.insert text is hello from Mongo console. There it is in our Mongo, and if you notice, it automatically appeared here in the client. So we can take that a step further and launch our browser tools, and we can say tasks.insert text is hello from Chrome. And we can check if it made it to the server, and it did. And even more interesting, we can launch a separate browser. Task.insert text hello Firefox. And it will instantly appear in both Firefox, Chrome, and the Mongo database, obviously. So that was the wow moment for me. But then we can keep going. So now we want our users not to have to open up the browser console to be able to add tasks to their to-do list. So we go back to Sublime, get rid of our CSS, we're not touching that. And we can add underneath the header, add a form class, just tying into our CSS, new task. Inside of it is an input type equal text name equal text placeholder equal type. to add new tasks. Close the form, close the header, save the file, should reload over here. But it's not going to do anything yet because we haven't attached any JavaScript to this. So to do that, we say template.body.events. We want to subscribe to an event on this. Kind of feels like WinForms to me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing. It doesn't seem like it would scale that well to a large application, but for small stuff that needs to be highly reactive, I think it's a pretty good fit. So whenever there is submit event on the new task, so this is tying over to matching up with this form. So when submit on this form, we want to provide a function or text. Get the text out of the text box and use our Meteor collection to insert text is text, and we're going to add a created at, it's just the current date. This has not anything to do with Meteor, but the fact that you can just change your schema, add properties, ignore them on the fly is a pretty awesome piece of Mongo. If we were on SQL right now, we'd have to go be changing the table and then running some type of deployment to add the columns to the database. And then we need to clear the text. Value equal the empty string, and then you have to return false to let Meteor know that there's nothing else to do with this event. So now we don't have any errors. Let me just fix it. Restarting. Now we should be able to form, and it works. And then Firefox has automatically reloaded. Firefox, and it works. So now we decide that we want our task to appear at the top when they come in instead of the bottom because it's going to run off the screen pretty quickly. You can go back to the JavaScript and just pass another argument to this Mongo function and say sort created at -1. That means descending. And things should refresh. Flip around. Yep. So now we want to give our users the ability to have a checkbox next to these and ability to delete them entirely. So, any questions so far? Back in the HTML, we can, down here in our template task, we will say give our list item a class of if checked, give it checked. Button for the delete. And that is just the little X thing times. And we need an input with a type of check box so that they can check it. Checked is bound to the checked property on the task. The class is toggle checked. And then finally, a span class equal text. That is bound to the actual title of the to-do. Now, if I typed all that correct, we now have checkboxes and delete buttons, but they don't do anything yet. So let's go add some event handlers. Now we're not on the body, we are on the template called task events. And we want an event for whenever click happens on toggle checked function. And we want to task.update back to Mongo syntax. This ID, that's the Mongo ID. Set only the checked property to the opposite of its current state. I want another event for click on delete. That's a function. Task.remove this underscore ID. All that correct. Reloads. Now our CSS changes whenever we check the box. We can delete task and everything is synced across all of the clients. I got some weird stuff right now because not all these have dates on them. 1, 2, 3. So that's checking and deleting. So now you can stop your app, and you're proud of your app at this point. You want to deploy it so that all your friends can type inappropriate things into the app and have it displayed on the screen. So you simply type Meteor deploy neednug.meteor.com. Point your browsers at neednug.meteor.com.
Never mind.
Hopefully it doesn't blow up.
It's gonna be fun.
I can't believe they.
This address.
Yeah, it's still uploading. That's just to prove that it wasn't already there.
Okay. It's not your classic cooking show scenario. You've not pre-prepped this, did not.
Nope,
Well,
obviously.
It's a real one.
It takes a while sometimes. I think it's pretty awesome that they give you this for free.
Meteor seems pretty slow. I mean, it's taking a long time for this. to get
Yeah.
done.
It's a good point. We should probably just
The
stop.
first
This is
time we
not
did
over.
that, you bundle it and then you deploy it. Just wait a little bit.
So,
That's what this does. Now serving.
Oh, I got a to-do list.
Woo! I do.
That's not done yet. Hey, Josh.
Hey.
Hold on. Okay, now I'll check it out. There we go.
Okay, so there's that. You guys can have fun there.
Wow, that was rude. I don't know who did that. That's the kind of neat. So this first time I think I've seen it working like this.
I think it's pretty awesome how,
It's pretty quick.
I mean, I've short of the HTML, I mean, I've sit here and painfully typed all this, but the point was that I didn't cheat any. We made this happen right here within 20 minutes or whatever it's been. So I think it's pretty impressive, especially if you've ever tried to do anything like this in another framework. So
I'm going to correspond with each of this to-do list as you continue.
okay. So now we want a checkbox up here for hiding the completed task. So this will be specific to everything else that we've done has been synced across all clients. So now we're going to do something that's only for me. So if I change whether I want to see the completed or not, that shouldn't change the other clients. So to do that, we go to the HTML right below the H1. Label class equal hide completed. And inside of that is an input type equal checkbox. Checked equal bound to a property called hide completed. Close. And the label is hide completed task. Save. Now you won't see any of this on your stuff. You might not see it on ours either.
I don't think your server started. I think you stopped it.
Oh, yep. Thank you. Start my local server again. Guess I could have that. So we have our checkbox that doesn't do anything yet. Go over to template body events. Add a new one for a change to the hide completed input. And if this wasn't in front of me, I would not remember the magical series of things that you have to get in there every time. I would have to look it up every time. Session.set. So session is a reactive data store that's specific to the client, one client. So things that you shove in here aren't going to be distributed to all other clients. Put in the state of the checkbox into the session. So now, we need to do more stuff. So now we have it stored in the session, but now we need to actually hide and show the task based off the state of that. So in our task collection or property, I guess, that we're exposing to the body, we want to change it to use if session.get hide completed. We want to return task.find check where checked is not equal to true. And keep the same sort of created at. Else. It's hard for me to write C# all day and then do JavaScript style curly braces on lines.
The correct style.
Yeah. Is this correct JavaScript by Joe's standard?
No, the else should be after the.
Yep, you're right. That's how it is on my notes.
Yep. Uh-huh. This is actually
I mean,
Java style.
Okay.
Also known as hard to read.
Also known as awesome.
Shove it all together.
And not wasting rock space.
We gotta save characters. We gotta ship this to the client.
That's true.
So
Those extra characters save valuable microseconds when going to the cloud.
So now we have our state that is specific to us. So the other clients don't know or care what we have, whether we want to see the completed task or not. So that's state specific to one client. Now we want to add in user accounts because that's a common thing in application development. So we're going to stop our server, hopefully remember to restart it later. Meteor add accounts, and they have a lot of these packages. If the core packages are pretty nice. So they have.
This is how you add a package.
Yeah, this is Meteor's package manager. Password. So I'm adding two packages, accounts UI and accounts password. And they also have atmosphere.js.com. So this is their community package site where you can find all kinds of stuff. Bootstrap, different router. They have these really cool little graph things that shows the popularity over time. So, oop. No package. Counts. Okay, so we got we'll restart our app and go in and add something because I don't want us to have to type in email addresses. I just want to do usernames. Client code. Accounts.ui config. Password sign up fields. Username. And then in the HTML, we want to expose a place for them to log in. So I'm under the checkbox. We use a template that's provided by accounts, the accounts package, login buttons. Save that. Page will reload. Now we have this. I think I like that better. I'll put it up here. So now I can do, I think it requires 6 characters. So I'm going to do Joshua, create account, Joshua, that's my password. So now I'm logged in. We haven't done anything with the login yet, so we can go over to whenever we're inserting a new task, we can use the flexibility of Mongo to add in an owner. Meteor.user ID. We can also save the meteor.user.username. And then back to the HTML, we can show some of that stuff. But we also want to hide the form if there is no current user logged in. And down here, we will show the user name using strong username. Save. So delete. These don't have users, so they just have a dash. But now if I say George, it says Joshua created George. So now we have accounts in our system. And that's where I planned on stopping, but I can deploy again so that we can have the login.
So when you add that package, as our session names automatically go to the user if you log in. Does it invalidate the session when you log out?
I don't know for sure. I would assume it does.
Okay. You know what they say about that?
Rhymes with country bumpkins.
No, that's not what they say.
Oh, that's what I always hear.
That must be a one version. Let's see if mine auto updates the out user way.
It will.
I don't know. I'm doubtful. I'm still just chilling. It's not done yet.
Yeah, still uploading.
You, Steve. No, no. It's deleted. Someone's dropping everything out.
Task police. It's not me. Focus.
Oh.
Oh, sign in.
Sign in.
It's a shallow victory when you're the only one with a keyboard. Physical keyboard.
Oh, password's got to be 6 characters.
Yeah, that's why I use Joshua. Fun fact, my password's Joshua. Hey, thank you. So, any questions? I think that's the tutorial goes on with removing the ability to have, or removing the fact that every bit of your database is stored on every single client. So obviously when it gets much bigger than what we have here, that's not a good idea. So it goes in and tells you how to publish a subset of your collection that's relevant to that user. It goes into removing you say Meteor remove insecure. So you remove the insecure package, which is enabled by default to make it easier to get up and running. But then whenever I go to the client and I say task.insert and try to insert some arbitrary JavaScript object, it's not going to allow me unless I write an explicit allow. And in that I can check for certain properties, or I cannot allow the Mongo API at all on the client and force them to use something called Meteor methods, which run on both the client and the server, but the server is the final say. So if the client tries to do something that the server doesn't like, it patches up the data on the client after the server returns. So
what about your templates? I mean, I know here you got everything in one HTML file, but I would assume you can split those up.
Yeah, I can take this. You can do one template per file.
Okay, so is it just loading? Is there like a naming convention, or is it just loading all HTML files and minified into one?
It loads them all in and minifies
So
it.
you could just have as many.
Yep.
Put every template in its own file,
Yeah.
and it'll combine
Yeah.
it. Okay.
It's not going to find it if you put it in a folder that's called server. So there's like 3 or 4 special folders that make sure that only certain things go certain places. But I can move this into a file called task.html and it would work.
I like that your deployed app has become a chat system.
Yeah, it's LA.
How does it handle race conditions? So
I-
like if you wanted to keep up with who was deleting these tasks, and like me and you click the button at the same time, and then basically it's almost like a video game. You
Mhm.
have to have something that like reconciles who wins, right?
They say that the last operation wins, but I just say they don't handle it. They just whatever happens last is the gospel according
so
to
like,
Meteor.
if you need something like that, this is just not what you should be using right here.
I don't think that they have any way to do anything other than you might be able to override it, but I'm not aware of it. I think it's just kind of the last operation wins. So what I want to do with this is my wife operates a salon, and I want to make an app where people can book appointments, and as they're looking at the available appointments, all the other people scheduling appointments, that slot would disappear. That's what I want to use it for.
You should
So
do that.
it's kind of like a small app that the spaghetti code of Meteor might not cause too many problems, and I get this really cool reactive app.
It seems like debugging could get tricky as it scales to a larger size.
Mhm,
You have
yeah.
more than a few
And
things going on.
I don't really know JavaScript, but every JavaScript framework I see has strings floating around all over the place. Angular's the same way.
It's just the JavaScript.
I guess that's just how you have to do things.
I think it's interesting it uses the class to link up the events instead of something like an ID or something like that. Sort of.
You can use that.
Well, it looks like it's using CSS selectors, so I guess you could use an ID.
Yes,
right?
ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So I think you select CSS.
you can use
Yeah,
any.
So I guess the first word is the event.
just
and
use
the
the
rest
hash
is-
there.
Yeah.
They basically, it basically just using the DOM by default, right?
I believe so.
The jQuery package over there, you want to mess with it.
Nope. So yeah, that's all I have. If there's no questions, we can throw it over to Grant, I guess. They can cut us off the internet.
Do what?
We done? No questions? So I'm gonna turn off the internet.
It does look like they are working on official Windows support
Goodbye, internet.
Oh,
for Meteor.
yeah,